Hey, jerks, welcome. I'm sorry I delayed the start time, but I just felt like watching Melanie Little. I wanted to keep watching her. I think she's still on, but I think she's almost done. Um, Big day today. The headline's right there. Mass State Police Michael Proctor to face a trial board on January 15th. I had to go live for that today. That just we got to be playing video. I was just watching Melanie Little. She went through all the video from Michael Proctor. Exactly what I was thinking today. I think it's time to bring out some Proctor video today. And I have a couple questions for you. I think we could do some phone calls today too. Number one, what do you think is going to happen at this Mass State Police Trial Board? Michael Proctor has been suspended without pay. Now he's going before a trial board. We finally find out on January 15th. And apparently the colonel's going to decide, the new colonel is going to decide his fate. What do you think is going to happen on January 15th or shortly after? Are they going to cover it up or are they going to fire him? It's the question of the day. And also, how is this going to affect the Karen retrial? How do they bring this guy up? And just looking at what Melanie was showing today, just going back to the videos again, going back to the documents, it's how many outright lies they made throughout this whole thing. And now you have the defense team with another lawyer, an extra lawyer, a pro bono lawyer, that's already been through this shit, and they're going to be able to go through all these details again, and with much more information from the crowd. It's funny how the other side, the Kevins of the world and the KP, they just want to make it about Turtle Boy. They're trying to change the subject right now. They're trying to pretend that Karen Reed needs to flee. And I'm just sitting here laughing because this is going to get good. This second trial, I mean, I don't want to laugh because Karen Reed's life is at stake. But at the same time, it's like, good luck to you. Good luck to you, prosecution. Good luck to you, Hank Brennan. Because there's so much to this. There's so much BS that they did throughout this whole thing. All of them. From Proctor to Chris Albert, the select board member, to Higgins. So this is I can't wait till January 15th to see what happens here. I just can't. It's just like we are going to get justice. I really feel it in 2025. And this is like Happy New Year. Here we go. Another example. And tomorrow Karen Reed is back in court. Dr. Russell is going to be facing questions from Hank Brennan. It's all getting started again. April is going to be crazy if this gets retried like it's expected. So I could play some video. I got the video. Let's hold on one second here. And what I'm going to do too is you could see this too, maybe. Yeah. This is the statement that came out through Hank Brennan today. And it's basically says, it's a notice from Hank Brennan to the defense and the court, basically saying that, suspended without pay under internal investigation, Mass State Police Michael Proctor now has this trial board on January 15th. So it's basically letting everyone know. And that's another question today. Will Hank Brennan put Michael Proctor on the stand again? Is that going to happen? So if I'm going to take some phone calls later. That's what I want. I want to know what you think. What do you think about Proctor? What do you think about Hank Brennan? Is he going to put him on the stand? And is he going to get fired? Is this colonel actually going to fire him? Because some people think maybe not, because, this will hurt the case, so they won't fire him. That wasn't me.
Can you take a look at the face page of what's under tab 2 and tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, sir. It's the private text thread with high school friends.
And this includes 9 chat participants that you engaged with.
That's correct.
Those participants include people by the name of Bird, Whitey, and Doc, correct?
Correct.
And then there's some other folks in there that are identified by at least the last 4 digits of their phone number, correct?
Yes.
So this is a group text or a group chat with you and 8 of your high school friends about this investigation, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, you never thought when you were engaged with these other 8 individuals that this particular set of chats would ever become public, did you?
No, I do not.
I want to take a look at page 2527. If you could turn, that's on the bottom right of the document in tab 2. Do you recognize, I'm sorry, do you have that page in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Do you really think they want to put him on the stand again? I want to know what is Hank thinking about this? What is his thinking about Proctor?
You recognize that this group chat was taking place on January 29th at about 10:52 p.m., correct?
Correct.
And the person that I'll identify as 5051, that's the last 4 digits of that phone number, indicates Chip, name of that BPD cop, correct?
Correct.
First of all, you indicated on Monday that you're Chip, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You responded at 10:53 p.m., John O'Keefe, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you were willing to tell just a few hours into an investigation of the death of a Boston police officer, you were willing to tell a bunch of high school buddies details about the investigation, including the name of the victim, correct?
At this point, it's 16 hours later, sir. Not a few.
16 is
Chip
a few
out.
hours, correct? I'm not talking about days later.
It was about 16 hours later, sir.
Correct. And you identified John O'Keefe as the Boston police officer who was fallen in the yard at 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
You also informed, if you will skip to page 2529, you also informed these same folks, these same high school buddies that, quote, all the powers that be
Yeah, right. Do
want
they have a
answers
socks?
ASAP, correct?
Yes.
You knew, Trooper Proctor, that there was brass. Tell me if you recognize it, that wanted this
I
case
do.
wrapped up quickly and efficient. Isn't that right? Sorry, it's not of you, but do you see your legs in that photograph?
Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay, and you also
No,
see
the
the
people
legs of
wanted
Mr.
answers,
O'Keefe
sir.
on the hospital gurney. They wanted
I
they
do.
didn't just want answers. They wanted answers
Correct.
ASAP. What is ASAP?
That's as soon as possible.
Right.
No, Your Honor.
And you were
Objections
texting
allowed?
this to your high school friends, again, 16 hours into this investigation, right?
Correct.
And you knew at that time, Trooper Proctor, that this was not going to implicate in any way, shape, form, or fashion another cop, correct?
Correct.
In this text exchange, let's turn to 2532, actually. You have that in front of you?
I do.
In this text exchange at 10:56 p.m., your buddy Bird writes, I'm sure the owners of the house will receive some shit, correct?
Correct.
How did you take that to mean? Did you take that to mean that he could get in trouble?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what
I'm not sure if there was a hearing today. There definitely wasn't a Kara Reed hearing. That's tomorrow, Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. There's also some Turtle Boy hearings this week, too. And maybe Betterow on the show, depending if he comes to Boston, we may not be able to get him on the show. It's funny. If he comes to us, we may not be able to work it out. But if he stays home and does the Zoom call for Aiden, we're probably going to have him on the show maybe Thursday night this week.
my friend was getting at.
Well, you had some idea.
Yeah, I maybe
That the owners of the house isn't going to get any shit for this, right?
that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, you interpreted it like he's not going to get in any trouble. He's not going to be a suspect, correct?
Correct.
And he's not going to be implicated in any way. Is that right?
Correct.
And your answer was one word, correct?
Yes.
What was that word?
Nope.
And then you followed that up with an explanation as to why you said no, didn't you?
That wasn't the explanation why I said nope. I simply said homeowner is a Boston cop too, meaning Mr. O'Keefe was a Boston cop. The homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
The question that preceded your answer, nope, the homeowner's a Boston cop too, was the homeowner's gonna get some shit for this, correct?
That's not what I meant with that text.
That's what you wrote.
Not what I meant, sir.
All right, let's take it in order. Question. Oh goodness, the homeowner's gonna get some shit for this. Answer, nope. Next text, he's a Boston cop too. That doesn't sound like an explanation for your nope.
No, that's just saying he's a Boston cop as well. Mr. O'Keefe is a
And that's
Boston cop.
why he's not going to get any shit, correct, Trooper Proctor?
Well, he's not going to receive any shit, sir, because Mr. Albert, the homeowner, had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
And you knew this.
You know what's so funny is listen to this again on Melanie Little's show and just playing it again. And, you know, having watched it all during the trial, it just reminds me of how dumb people are. I can't believe that they didn't find her not guilty, like unanimously. Because there's so much BS like this throughout this whole trial. There's just so much shit, so much reasonable doubt. And there's one reason why. It's guys like Proctor and Tully Buchanan and Kevin Albert. He recuses himself, but he's still involved. He's still, I mean, it just goes on and on and on with these folks. And the fact that a jury, like, it's funny because they had some smart people on that jury. I think smart people, some of them anyways, not all of them, sometimes think they're too smart. Like most real smart people don't think they're too smart. Like me, I know I'm not that smart. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like sometimes people overthink things. Like the stock show I did the other night. I wanted to keep it simple because that's all that really matters. It's like simply how do you reduce risk and make good money, make risk money? You know what I mean? Like that's all you should be doing. Keep it simple. These people overthought it. They way overthought it. They tried to come up with new theories that the prosecution didn't even make. That was what the jury went with. Too smart for their own good. Too cute. Because this, if you really focus on the details, it's over and over again. BS from these cops. He's lying right here. He's totally lying. He can't even be honest about this text, this simple text that he said. Yeah, he's got to be okay because he's a Boston cop. That's what you said. That's what you said. No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Well, what did you mean then, dude? What could you mean? How could you see that? I mean, it's so full of shit. Dude needs to be fired. And it's so funny. The anti-side will say, oh, they shouldn't. It's Kevin said, this guy's so vetted. They've looked at everything. He shouldn't be fired. He just sent a couple inappropriate texts. It's a lot more than that. There's a lot more. It's the misrepresentations. It's the misspelling the names. It's lying throughout this whole process. Violating Karen Reed's civil rights. Kevin is so full of shit. That whole crew, that whole crusty, I can't stand her. Shut up, lady. She is awful.
16 hours into your investigation.
Yes.
Less than a day.
Yes.
To your satisfaction.
To my satisfaction and
you
to the
hadn't
members
been
of my
to the
unit.
crime scene?
So let him finish. We didn't get finish your answer.
To my satisfaction and to all the members of my unit who investigated that day.
Objection. Calls for speculation.
So I'm going to let it stand. Trooper Proctor, you have to keep your voice up, okay? Jurors need to hear you way back there.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact of the matter is, you hadn't been to the crime scene by the time you wrote this text, correct?
Correct.
You hadn't been inside the home, correct?
No.
You had you had questioned a grand total of 3 percipient witnesses at this point, correct?
Yes.
And 2 of the 3 were named McCabe, right?
Correct.
And one of the three was named Albert, correct?
Yes.
And it's against that backdrop that you wrote, nope, the homeowner's not going to get any shit.
All the people him and his sister knew. His mother knew him. I mean, just enough. That alone should be enough to say not guilty. There's like over and over again, there's all this crap like that. This guy should have never been assigned the case. He should lose his job over that. Just that. I love to see Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tales ever acknowledge that. But he'll say, no, they didn't know each other that well. Complete lie. Complete lie. He's a liar. Kevin's a liar.
Because he's a cop, right?
That's not what I meant by that.
At 10:57, Bird goes on to write.
Yeah, he did. He went to the gym with him. He did go to the gym with him.
To accomplish that.
He literally went to the gym with him. Like, there's so much connections between these peoples and their wives. I'm surprised Proctor wasn't at the waterfall that night. I wonder what he was doing that night. Why he didn't get an invite to the waterfall. He was probably dying to be invited to the waterfall that night. He was probably like, why don't these guys invite me? Ridiculous.
And then he writes, who's the homeowner? And then he writes, I hope not, but I can see it. Correct?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I got to say, I had a lot of fun last night on LTL Media. You should definitely check out the show we did last night with Mazda Media, LTL, and myself as a guest. It was a great time. I really enjoyed the discussion. Brian's a great host. Check out his show. Subscribe if you're not. Thank you so much for the super chat tonight, Brian. I really appreciate that. LTL Media. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to doing more shows, too, the three of us.
That's a term for it, yes.
In other words, Bird wrote that the homeowner must have been so drunk, so wasted to have killed him. Correct?
Objection.
Do you know what that means? Do you know what that text means?
Just the puddle part, Your Honor. That term.
All right, so he can answer that.
And the puddle part means drunk or wasted, right?
Yes.
And what Bird actually wrote was he must have been a puddle to accomplish that. Correct?
That's what he wrote.
And then you write back, quote, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital, right?
Correct.
You used the phrase waffled about a Boston police officer who had fallen in the snow and died in someone's yard. And you decided to use the word waffled him.
Isn't that a great point? He was all out for these other Boston police, Brian Albert, Boston police officer. He basically says in text they're protected. It's won't go back to them. But this other dead Boston police officer, he's waffled. He's waffled. That's very dehumanizing. It's not something you would say about someone you cared about. It's something seriously wrong, just with his words. They always point the finger at Karen Reed as being like a nasty person and all this other crap, which she's not. But when you look at the words of this guy over and over and over, and not just at Karen, at John too. And the same thing with Matt McCabe, with his words. Remember his words? The guy, don't tell him the guy came into the house. Tell him you saw him on the lawn. The guy didn't come in. Just tell him you didn't see the guy come into the house. The guy. Not John, not our friend, not Boston police officer didn't come in. Not JJ that they parade around doing now. The guy. Why don't they do justice for the guy? Maybe you should come up with some shirts. Justice for the guy. Blue shirts, and we can try to stand with them and see what happens. Justice for the guy. Can we, is that, I mean, that maybe that's too much, right? But maybe we should do a fundraiser for the McCabes. Justice for the guy. All right. I should play more video. I'm getting I just listened to this today. It's like triggering the whole thing. All this, what we've been through. And we're supposed to just remain calm, trust the justice system. It's infuriating. More people need to know about this and not be swayed by they have a propaganda campaign going against us.
Correct?
Objection.
So sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Did you answer, she waffled him, I looked at his body at the hospital?
I did answer that, yes.
And then Bird questioned, she waffled him, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, he was banged up. Is that right?
Yes.
Then a person with the phone number 0095 wrote, I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up? You see that?
I do.
And you wrote, nope. Is that right?
Correct.
Yet again, this is before 11 o'clock at night on January 29th, 2022, some 16 hours into your.
All right, this question that came in, I want to make sure I don't miss it because I got a comment on it actually, but probably not in the way they're thinking. Where is it? There it is. My three sons says, have you heard anything about Julie Nagel meeting with the feds this week? No, I haven't. But my comment would be, I have a source. I'm kind of frustrated with it, frankly. I think they're very real. They've ghosted me. They're not getting back to me. It's frustrating. They need to really put up. But at the same time, they did give me some information. One of the pieces of information was that the feds, at the beginning of December, I believe it was, maybe the end of November, sometime in that time frame, pretty recently, within the last 30 to 60 days, were back interviewing people in the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. So my source tells me this is still ongoing. The feds are still working this, like working it, like as we speak. Think about what they're trying to build up to. If you really believe what I believe, that DA Morrissey is the target, that's not an easy one to bring down because there's going to be a lot of plausible deniability. So they need to get them dead to rights, and they need to get some of these people higher on the food chain. So this could take a long time. But I know that this is ongoing. Had a couple super chats. I want to thank everyone for super chatting. Our two mods, Sarah, thank you so much. And M for being members here and supporting and always being here. Sarah's due. She's a great moderator. She also moderates Melanie Little. We're very lucky to have her. We're very lucky to have MJ and Stephanie and Jen, our moderators, and Scott McGinnis too. We got a great mod team here. Thank you, LTL Media, again. It was a great show last night. You deserve everything I said about you last night, man. You're doing great work, and it's great that you're trying to help a family. That you stepped up, and I could tell it's, sometimes we all need a break, and sometimes we just need to talk to people about what we're going through because you're carrying a big load. I get it, and I 100% support you. I like what you're doing. You're a good man, LTL Media. Mama, she sent $10. She says, hi, Mike. Let me just get this. Hold on one second. Hi, Mike. Best news today. Fire Proctor 115-2025. Free Karen Reed. Yeah, right. I think better news would be if Proctor was fired today. But we have a date. We have a date for some justice coming up for Proctor. January 15th. January 15th is when it's happening. Thank you so much, Mama Cass. All right, let's play some more video.
Your investigation. Is that right?
Yes.
So before you ever went to the crime scene, before you ever went into the house, only having interviewed 3 folks, you had this case nice and wrapped up, didn't you?
Yes. Based on the evidence my office uncovered that day, the one shoot discovered at the scene, the one shoot at the hospital, Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, the broken taillight piece is underneath the snow.
Super Proctor, I didn't ask for information. I asked, did you, in your mind, have this case wrapped up? Was it cut and dry in your mind?
Yes.
Bird then writes, so the owner of the house was a woman. Sorry, was a woman cop that beat him, question mark, right?
Yes.
And then you wrote, that's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you said, then I saw the guy, correct?
Correct.
So what you meant by that, Trooper Proctor, was according to you, based on your conversations, your initial conversations with the paramedics, the first responders, you were under the impression that this was a beating death. He'd been beaten to death, correct?
The way it was given to me, sir, was
That's yes
for
or no?
medical.
That's yes or
No,
no?
he's going to answer the question. If you want
Go
to
ahead.
withdraw the question, you can.
No, go ahead.
We entered this investigation with an open mind. It was given to me as a medical situation. And when we saw Mr. O'Keefe's body at the hospital with Sergeant Buchanan and I, we saw his injuries and we were kind of working through how these injuries occurred.
As a matter of fact, both you and Sergeant Buchanan believed that he had suffered the injuries as a result of a physical altercation based on information you received from the paramedics initially, correct?
Initially, we didn't know what we had. We knew there was some significant injuries to Mr. O'Keefe. And we're still figuring out how those injuries occurred.
Well, you just testified. Initially, we didn't know what we had.
Right.
But 16 hours after the fact, you wrote the following sentence. That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics, correct?
Correct.
So initially, you did think you knew what you had, a physical altercation leading to a death, correct?
Correct.
So when you just said, initially, we didn't know what we had, that wasn't quite true. You did at least have an idea of what you thought you had, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
That wasn't
All
quite
right.
true. That happens a lot to Proctor. That wasn't quite true.
You were aware initially that John O'Keefe had suffered a 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
That resulted in a skull fracture, correct?
Correct.
He had a laceration over his right eye, small laceration just under the eyebrow, correct?
Yes.
Had a laceration on his nose. Is that right?
Oh.
Correct.
He had patterned scratches on his right arm, abrasions, scratches, correct?
Yes.
And he had no injuries below the neck.
Not that I observed, sir.
Not a single broken bone, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single fracture, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single bruise below the neck, right?
Not that I observed.
Looks a lot like a physical altercation, doesn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Bird writes, Bear, let's focus, correct?
Yes.
Who's Bear?
That's another nickname I have.
0095 writes, what
I don't know why,
does
I
she
just-
waffled him mean?
He looks like a.
And then Bird writes,
His nickname is Beer. I haven't heard. I don't know how I missed that one before. I mean, everyone knows about Chip, but Beer. I'm thinking about like I don't know, S&M or some shit. When you have a nickname like that. Probably his wife putting the thing around his neck and dragging him around, just like Brian Albert does.
what's the story, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote, she hit him with her car. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen, in your experience, have you ever seen a pedestrian who's hit by a 6,000-pound car with no bruises?
He's a furry, exactly.
Ever.
Definitely a furry.
The pedestrian strikes I've seen have been at high speeds.
Listen to this guy.
Enough
60
to knock
plus.
a person out of his shoe, right?
Pedestrian strikes I've seen. Yeah, I wonder why. What? Do you ever think about that too? Like, even if she was going as fast as they say, not a lot of people die from that speed. Not like 40, 50, 60. Anything over like 40, most likely death.
60 plus miles per hour. So I can't recall right now, top of my head, as far as injuries in the past pedestrian strikes I've attended.
Okay. So someone, you indicated on Monday, under examination by Mr. Lally, you've seen a shoe missing,
Correct.
pedestrian strikes, correct?
Yes.
Those are high speed, extremely high speed incidents, correct?
Yes.
60 plus miles an hour, right?
I can't recall all the pedestrian strikes I've been to as far as the miles per hour the vehicle is traveling.
Trooper Proctor, let me ask you the question again.
Bullshit.
Have you ever, yes or no, have you ever, in your experience, seen a vehicle pedestrian incident in which the pedestrian has no bruises?
Objection.
Why?
Have you seen that?
I can't recall.
Next question.
Wicked sus right there. This is reasonable though.
After you wrote, she hit him with her car, 5051 writes, oh, Jesus. And Bird writes, okay, that's fucked up, correct?
Correct.
And then you wrote what?
Intentional or not?
Intentional or not? Is that right?
Yes.
Your words.
Correct.
I know, it's so true.
0095 then
my
chimes
three
in,
sons.
gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Question mark.
It's hard. I gotta say, it is hard to watch. I start watching this shit. I get so fired up. Try to calm down, chill out, smoke a joint, Mike, because it's all they do is lie. It'd be one thing if they were trying to sell you a car or something. You know what I mean? Like you expect that, but when someone's life is on the line and it's a Boston police officer that died, you don't expect all the bullshit. But that's Massachusetts and America now, unfortunately. This is what it's come to. Generations of corruption has just gotten so bad. Sucks to say that. Yeah, Glenn's firing up. What are you firing up, Glenn? I got a few ready to go. As soon as this show's over, I fire it up, man. Yeah, weed is a gateway drug to hard work. For me, anyways. Mocha fatty. I need it. I need it. Let's get back to this, though. Let's get back to high blood pressure, which I don't have. But Michael Proctor might give it to me.
Correct?
Correct.
And you wrote what?
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
That's another animal
Oh.
we won't be able to prove. Correct?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you knew that there were going to be things in this case, even 16 hours into this, that you just admitted you would have zero proof of, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that statement that this was one of several things that you knew we would not be able to prove?
That statement, that's another animal we won't be able to prove, references the intentional or not part.
You didn't care at that point when you wrote that, you didn't care what you could or could not prove, did you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Isn't that what you meant?
No.
You had a narrative that you had developed and you would pursue it no matter what the proof was. That's what you meant by that statement.
You know what? It's only a joke, I guess. And you know what? She said so much lies about me. So I feel no. JFK says KP is selling her Addies in front of Speedway in Lynn. I'm going to jump in my car and drive over there. I want to get some video. I wish. I would get the video. I would definitely be there. I'd be like 100 miles an hour. Cops pull me away. I got to get this video. She's selling her Addies.
Correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask.
I think she's selling them somewhere
Did you
out in
mean
Worcester.
by that? Thank you, Your Honor. I didn't mean to
whoa.
step on your words. Did you mean by that statement that you were going to pursue this case no matter what the proof might be?
What I meant by that statement was if Miss Reed backed into Mr. O'Keefe intentionally or not.
Interestingly, though, that statement came on the heels of he was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him. And you wrote in response to that question, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. Correct?
That's not what I was responding to. I was responding to the intentional or not part.
So you were responding to your own statement.
Correct.
Okay. 0095 then writes, what's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton? The other one involved. Correct?
Yes.
In other words, that person was asking, tell me the name of the homeowner. Isn't that right?
Yes.
The guy that's the cop, right?
Correct.
And you ignored that question for a second time. Is that right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, not one time, not once in this entire group chat did you disclose the name Brian Albert, did you?
I don't believe so, no.
You were actively trying to hide Brian Albert's name, at least from this conversation.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you were trying to do?
Absolutely not.
But you had no problem sharing John O'Keefe's name with your buddies from high school, right?
Correct.
And you had no problem sharing Karen Reed's name with your buddies from high school, correct?
I don't believe I named the defendant.
Not yet, you didn't. Later in the chat.
Not yet.
Okay, correct.
5051 then writes, the BPD,
This is how much of a clown this guy is. I mean, he just basically violated his, I don't know if it's part of his oath, but it would seem to be. Like, just violated the code. You don't share information like that to your high school friends. And he didn't even know if he did it. He's like waiting until Alan Jackson shows him the text. It's like, that's how little it means to him. Guy's a freaking joke. I know dog walkers and stockbrokers that have more, will protect the privacy of customers more than this joker.
have any jurisdiction here because it was their own? Question mark. Is that right?
Yes.
And a few texts later, if you look down a few texts, at about 11 o'clock, you see a text that starts, nah, cat.
I do, sir. Yes.
You responded, quote, nah,
There's a
N-A-H,
moron.
nah, cat, K-A-T-T.
Let me ask you, guy.
It's the total opposite.
If you had this moron, this disgraced under internal affairs investigation, suspended without pay, conflicted, lying, human rights violating, federally under investigation, facing on January 15th, he's facing this trial board where the colonel of the state police could very well fire him. Would you take a plea deal, moron? If you would, you're one of the dumbest people I've ever seen, Doug. You people are really not right. This is a case that you would never take a plea deal on, especially when you already won the first time, when it was more likely that you would lose. Now the odds are in your favor, now that you've already had a hung jury. You people you fall for anything. That's what I'm talking about. You think you're too smart, but you're actually pretty damn dumb. Pretty damn dumb.
They have to recuse themselves. Same with Canton, correct?
That text ends
Yeah,
as,
this too.
they have
This
to
too.
recuse themselves.
This
You then text back, I'm sorry.
Oh, you can't hear that? How long was I muted for? Did you hear the other part? Damn, sorry, man. There was a comment here. Did you? Okay, let me go back to this. There was a comment that Karen Reed was going to take a plea deal. And my response basically was, are you a moron? Are you moronic? When you got this moron on the stand, Michael Proctor, and he's under internal affairs investigation. Yeah, you heard that. Good. When did I mute myself? That is so weird. So you did hear that part. Good. Because, I mean, that's the big thing on this. It's like, let me put the banner back up. Hold on. So we had that comment came in afterwards, and she was so right about the principle. I guess that's what I muted myself on. I'm not sure how I even did that. So on principle, it's so correct. For this, there's no reason. This is what Karen Reed's all about, too. On principle, she didn't do it, so why would you plead guilty? On principle. All right, let's get back to the video and me not muting myself. Now I'm wondering, am I sleepwalking here? Because, like, that was so weird that I muted myself. Something wrong there.
Sorry. Can I have a moment?
Yes.
Flip to that page.
I see where you're at, sir.
How did you end that text?
Same with Canton.
Meaning Canton has to recuse itself also, correct?
That was my understanding.
So by 11 p.m. on January 29th, 2022, there was no question in your mind, Trooper Proctor, that the Canton Police Department was recused from this investigation in all particulars, correct?
That they had taken a step back from participating, yes.
Right. Well, there's one way to put it. They've taken a step back from participating. Another way to put it is they recused themselves completely, correct?
Correct.
They were not going to be, at least in your mind, they were not to be involved in any way, just like Boston PD was not to be involved in any way. Is that right?
Objection.
Is that what you were thinking?
It was my understanding they were not going to be involved.
Now, if we could turn to page 2537.
Thanks, Glenn.
5051 writes, but I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops, correct?
Yes.
And Bird writes, something stinks, correct?
Correct.
And then Trooper Proctor, you responded, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on.
I need those pearls on right now. I need the pearls to protect me. You're right. That's why I wear them. So true. Nurse Kim's pearls will protect me. Those have been blessed by the Bedrow, the women of the Bedrow family. His mom and his aunt. Definitely.
The girl. Isn't that right?
That's right.
So in that text exchange, you were saying, yeah, we're out to make it cut and dry, correct?
No.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to follow the evidence wherever it takes us. You didn't, did you?
I did not write that.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to make sure that we investigate this thing fully and thoroughly before making any decisions. You didn't say that, did you?
I did not.
You wrote, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And the reason you wrote that is because you knew, as the text above it says, this has to be cut and dry because it involves cops, right?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that the reason you wrote it?
No, Your Honor.
And then you indicated, we're going to put serious charges on the girl. Who did you mean by the girl, by the way?
I wonder how he feels about it right now. Because that's basically what it is. He's the fall guy. Proctor is the fall guy. If I were him, I'd be getting over to the feds as soon as possible. Marilyn Bowen says, thank you, Mike, for sharing this a second time. I'm not sure if I could be able to go through like the whole 4 hours of it. It's pretty long, but we'll play as much as we can. I also want to take a couple phone calls tonight, too, because I want to know what you think about what's going to happen to Michael Proctor on December 15th. Oh, January 15th. I'm still in 2024. January 15th. What do you think is going to happen? And also, will Brennan bring him up? Will he put him on the stand? And how do you bring a guy like Proctor on the stand a second time when it's gotten even worse for him? It's gotten even worse. And who knows what the defense may have found out a lot more. I have a feeling the defense knows a lot more than we do. Don't you? Especially about Proctor.
The defendant.
Karen Reed,
Yes, sir.
so the way that you were going to make it cut and dry, pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Is that right?
Absolutely not. Follow the facts and the evidence from that day on the 29th. And everything led to Miss Reed hitting Mr.
Everything.
O'Keefe with her vehicle.
Everything.
But that wasn't the question that you were
Everything based on talking to the McAlberts. Because the McAlberts, the other likely witnesses that I immediately excluded because they're all cops and protected and friends of mine, I trusted them at their word that John never came in the house. End of story. That was my investigation. I mean, that's enough to have reasonable doubt when you have a lead investigator and that's it. Like, that's what I don't get about this jury. Were they sleeping? Did they overthink it? I think they thought they were too smart. They thought they solved the case without it even being presented. The prosecution didn't even present, apparently, what the jury thought happened. I'm not sure that it will happen a second time like that. I think the next time you may see right away, not guilty. I think it may be just a weird thing that we had a weird jury the first time. But I don't know. I mean, people seem to be pretty dumb out there and think they're brilliant. Because the most obvious thing on this, if you listen to all the details, is that these cops are corrupt and they're covering up something. And we know what they're covering up. It's so obvious. This isn't rocket science. These are friends of friends, friends of friends. We're all friends. We're all in this together. We're all going to fib a little bit. We're all going to lie. We're all going to pretend she did it. Yeah, can they rig a jury a second time? I don't think so. I don't think so. And the more that we all cover this and talk about it, and especially just playing the video tonight, like, that's what I loved about Melanie's show today. She just went through it over and over again. Just people need to watch that. And if you have friends or family that aren't aware of this or they're not sure about it, show them Melanie's video from today. Let them watch Proctor. I mean, you can do my show tonight. I'm pretty much doing the same thing, but Melanie really is special. She killed it today. I just got to say, I'm so glad that she covers all this stuff, the Aiden stuff, because she's so thorough and she goes deep. She's really good at it. And she has the time. You have an expert that has the time to do this, that is so good at it. It was amazing to watch her today while I was working and even get ready for the show. That's why I was delaying the show today. I don't even know. She might still be live. She was like 3.5, 4 hours in. But this is what we all need to do if we're YouTubers, is just keep playing these videos. Keep replaying the videos of Higgins. Keep replaying the video of Proctor. All the stuff on the stand. Because the more you see it, the more you see it. And it's hard to forget it, especially if it's repeated, repetition. And there are a lot of people who haven't seen it. So that's what we're doing tonight.
answering, was it? We're going to follow the evidence and make sure we do this thoroughly. The question you were answering was, I assume you guys, you, Trooper Proctor, and your team are going to, quote, make it cut and dry, since it involves cops, meaning Brian Albert, correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we? 5051 little further down says, gotta be. I could only
amazing.
imagine what internal affairs at BPD are trying to get out there. Correct?
Correct.
Meaning,
We are so lucky, especially Karen Reed and Aiden. Very lucky that we have Melanie Little covering this. I like it as a viewer. I love watching it. And even as a YouTuber. Like watching her.
this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to answer for, given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn. Correct?
Objection.
Got a lot of work there now.
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears.
Right, ass Bob? The jury doesn't need to solve the crime. I know. It's exactly what I think they tried to do too. It's ridiculous. Overthinking things. Yeah. We got to keep the noise up, you know, and the fundraising. It's been great to see a lot of the YouTubers have been kicking in. Been a lot of money raised over the last few weeks. And a lot of you have donated. That's like the best thing we can be doing. And don't get too complacent, you know? We got to keep just as strong as we were a year ago. And I think things like tomorrow, you're going to see the hearing tomorrow. Once it starts up in April, it's going to be crazy again.
And he writes, she hot at least? Correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts,
Oh. He actually said that. I've asked state police officer. And then he reads it back. See why we're playing this back? Not guilty. That's what it should have been.
he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation,
Yes.
into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
But sir, you didn't have
I love this new guy, Alessi. He's really good. You're right, Sarah. I'm a big fan already.
all accounts, did you?
What I meant by that was
Did you or did you not have all accounts in your investigation?
the accounts we had was Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The accounts
And then
you
some.
had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean,
I'm
he,
sorry,
he
go ahead.
was offered
The
a bribe,
accounts you
basically.
had-
He was offered a thank you. They directed to his wife. So, I mean, he was actually. I mean, we know that for a fact. Absolutely.
Trooper Proctor were from two people named McCabe and one named Albert, who happened to be the homeowner and a Boston cop. Those are the accounts from percipient witnesses that you had, correct?
There was another additional witness that we had investigators had interviewed, Miss Roberts as well.
And from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. That was your decision 16 hours into the investigation, correct?
Yes.
And the other decision that you made and the other determination you came to was my client, Karen Reed, was a whack job cunt, right?
Yes.
No apology. No apology.
What
Look
else did you say in response to
He just wants to move on.
she's hot at least? Or she hot at least?
You'd think this guy would be smart enough to say, you know what? I am sorry, Karen Reed. Shouldn't have done that. He just wants to move on.
Question mark.
So following that text, I responded Yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Yeah, she's a babe. Who's the she?
Miss Reed.
Weird Fall River accent, though. You talking about her, the way she talks?
The accent.
And no ass. Now you're talking about her body or physique, correct?
Yes.
What weird things to comment on too, like her accent, her lack of an ass, like, just, dude, you are a very creepy man, Mr. Michael Proctor.
Think that's appropriate?
Absolutely not.
Then Bird chimes in with a little comedy. Not newsworthy then, correct?
Correct.
In other words, well, if she didn't have an ass, nothing to see here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I know.
And then 5051 says, oh, she's skating, right?
Correct.
And what did you write after that?
My response was 0 chance she skated.
And then what did you write?
She's fucked.
0 chance she skates. She's fucked, right?
Correct.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's fucked. That's what you were saying.
Objection.
All right, so that's sustained. You can, the content's fine. You have to ask it differently.
17 hours into this investigation, Trooper Proctor, you made the decision that you were going to put it on Miss Reed, didn't you? Put the case on Miss Reed. She was going to catch the case, correct?
No, absolutely not.
What did you mean then when you said she's fucked?
What did you mean?
After the day's investigation with multiple troopers conducting multiple tasks and a debriefing at Canton PD amongst detectives in my office, we went through the overwhelming amount of evidence against Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. That's what I meant by that comment.
What you meant by that comment, Trooper Proctor, was you were going to make sure, because 5051 had said she's going to skate. She's skating. When you said 0 chance she skates, she's fucked. What you meant was, I am going to make sure Ms. Reed doesn't skate. She's fucked. That's what you meant. Isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then Bird decides to chime in. Good. No ass bitch. Right?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And how did you respond to Bird saying, good, no ass bitch?
I laughed.
Thought that was funny, did you? Trooper Proctor? Thought that was funny?
Who's laughing now?
It was
Huh?
unprofessional of me. That's something I shouldn't have done.
Well, I think we all know it was unprofessional. It was a lot of things. I'm asking
Yep.
you, did you think it was funny?
No, according to my response at the time, apparently.
Apparently we're laughing at you, you friggin' clown.
Then you sent a picture just to add to it, to pile on, of Miss Reed being arrested, correct?
I don't.
I mean, this guy should be talking about anyone's ass. He looks like a fat ass. Like, honestly,
I'm not sure if that came from me, sir.
him and a lot of his friends actually kind of look dumpy. So he shouldn't be talking about anybody about their body.
Let's skip to 2543. Are you there, Trooper Proctor?
Yes.
The date is now February 2nd, 2022. A person by the name of Doc writes, is that chick a smoke? Correct?
Yeah. The other thing too is someone brought up health conditions. Like Proctor knows that she has MS and Crohn's. that's really, it's sick.
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Who's Chief?
A friend of mine.
And then you write what?
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
There you go.
Trooper Proctor,
How
explain
dehumanizing
to
is
the
that?
jurors
Who the
what a
fuck?
balloon-
That is like. I'm trying to think of when I might hear that on the playground. When it would be like sort of okay, because kids don't know better. They kind of have a mean. Maybe like 4th grade, 5th grade. But after that, like, you know, junior high, high school, I think that's even taboo at that point. Like, this guy is very immature. And who talks like that? It's vile. It's disgusting. This is really the worst part for me right here. Maybe worse than that he used the C word and all the rest of it. This part. I mean, God, dude, I hope you never get cancer and they have to probe you, a Proctor. It's really a sick, this guy, they just say some inappropriate text. That's what Kevin wants to pretend. It was just some inappropriate text. They should keep Proctor on when he used that kind of language. Kevin cries about people challenging his cancer, but Michael Proctor can, a state police employee can say that. That's why that other side is so full of crap. And the difference, how mad Kevin gets at like just anonymous people, just random people who are viewing the content, saying some crap at him. But this is a Massachusetts State Police officer. It's a big difference. I expect crazy shit from people who watch this content, who criticize me. I get it all the time. Whatever. You know what I mean? If you're going to put yourself out there, it's expected. What you don't expect it from is someone that the Massachusetts State Police has entrusted to investigate a murder.
Who not is?
Your essentially, I guess, your rectum area.
Your anus?
Essentially?
Yes.
That's what you were referring to about Miss Reed?
Yes.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked? That's how you were treating Miss Reed? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You could get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
And I'm at the point where if they don't fire him after the 15th, I'm just going to play that. I'm going to play that every night, I guess, like on my show until they do, because it's just a reminder, like, you're employing this guy. This is the guy that the Massachusetts State Police and our tax money has been employing. Apparently, he's now suspended without pay, but is he still getting benefits? Is he still getting a pension? Is he still getting health care? And why isn't he fired?
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Miss Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
We're supposed to trust this guy.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
I was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior? 10.
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that she had serious medical issues, gastrointestinal medical issues that she suffered with, she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, that's the thing. Who's going to charge him here? You know, Edward Scott said if they cover this up by just firing Proctor instead of charging him, it's not justice, it's special treatment. Gee, if we have a real state police colonel, he'll take every piece of evidence that's been acquired through their internal investigation and their trial that they're doing, their trial board, and he sends it over to the FBI. Because you can't trust Michael Morrissey, clearly. You can't trust Hank Brennan to do the right thing. So hopefully this new colonel from New Jersey sends all the info to the feds, the FBI, and says, here you go. Put him in jail. Because seriously, you know there's more to this, too. We know there's more to this. This isn't the first time shit's happened. Thank you so much, What the Duck. Just gifted 5 Young Jerks memberships. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. I love you all who've been super chatting tonight. Really appreciate it. Last minute show, but we're both celebrating tonight, but also getting a little mad because we have to relive this again. And the consideration that this guy might be on the stand again, we have to listen to this shit again, and the balls of them to even bring this to trial, this retrial. So we're gonna continue to watch it. This is the most vile, disgusting. I just hope my YouTube channel doesn't get struck. Like, that's how bad it is.
But you decided that you're going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy. 1 second, sir. I'm sorry. You decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
No, sir.
Let's skip to 2543.
Thank you, Glenn.
On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" Correct?
Yes.
And you wrote, "Nothing, writing a warrant." Is that right?
Correct.
Whitey then shares some sort of a video, correct?
Yes.
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, "Wait, why does her asshole leak?" Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see it. Sidebar, take that down, please.
Sidebar indeed, right? Good friends you got there too, Michael Proctor. Birds of a feather. His friends thought that was funny too. His buddies. It is hard to listen to. You know what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do the open the phone line, see if they work. I have it set up. Hopefully it works right away. If you want to call in, answer the question tonight. The question is this: will the Mass State Police fire him? And will Brennan, Special Prosecutor Brennan, put Michael Proctor on the stand? What do you think? 978-560-3155.
Unmuted.
If you want to call in.
Without reference to-
Take that down.
Take that down. Listen to
Without
it.
reference to the specifics of what was.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar.
Sure.
She is such a, oh man, did you hear her? Take that down. I want to see counsel at sidebar. Bev is not having it right now. I'm taking phone calls. Oh, it's not working. Hold on one second. See if this works. Hold on. I see you calling, but are you there? Are you live on the show yet? No. All right, it's not. Apparently, it's not working. That's what happens all the time on the Bluetooth. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut it down and reset it up, and we'll just keep watching the video until I get the phone line set up. Turn it off. Turn it back on. Let's see if this works. Oh, that's the wrong one.
You are unmuted.
Trooper Proctor, without getting into the specifics of the words used in the following, in the next exchange that you're looking at, it's fair to say that your high school buddies then continue to discuss this
Hello?
reads medical issue.
Hi, Ella.
correct?
Jackson's calling you.
That's
Pardon me?
sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. That isn't what you said you'd ask.
You're live
Go
on the
ahead and
Young
ask the
Jerks.
question you
Pardon me?
Get-
You're live on the Young
No. Are you there? Oh, they hung up on us. Are you there?
You're live on the Young
No, she's not.
Are you there?
All right, we'll try. I tried to call them. I think they got confused what was going on. Too much echoing going on. All right, we'll take your call again. Here we go. I think 978-560-3155. This is funny. Hey, you calling the Young Jerks?
Mike?
Yes, you're live on our show.
Hey, it's Miss Jessica NB. How are you?
Jessica, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much for taking my call. This is the first call that I've done.
Awesome. I'm glad you got through. What do you
Yes.
what do you think about this whole thing? Do you think they're going to fire Proctor?
I personally think, well, I live in Chicagoland, so I'm very familiar with corruption to a very large extent. So I think personally that they're going to drag this out as long as possible. And I say that only to say that they, how should I put it the right way? So I feel like they're going to drag it out as long as possible. They're going to keep saying, oh, we're still doing our investigation, because as soon as they fire him, I feel like the Commonwealth will look even worse. And then that'll kind of open up the question of, well, why didn't you guys fire him sooner? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's a good point.
Yeah.
What about will they put him on the stand again? Is Hank Brennan going to put Proctor back on the stand?
I feel like they almost have to. Just coming from, they keep saying, well, let me say this. I feel like they almost have to because he was such an integral part of the first trial. However, you never know. He could suddenly get sick and become incapacitated and not be able to go on a stand or go on medical leave if he's still employed or something along those lines. So I feel like there's always that option for the Commonwealth.
You're very popular in our chat, apparently.
I can't see it right now, but I love everyone, and I really, really, really appreciate you taking my call.
Are you a mod?
I really enjoy.
Yeah, I was going to ask because they're saying you're a moderator of other channels. What other channels do you mod?
Well, I am a moderator of Calling All Beans. I'm a moderator of Lizzie's channel. She's actually launching her channel tonight, her first YouTube live stream, and then also Nurse Kim, sometimes Auntie Deb if he puts me on. because sometimes he changes out his moderation team. So yeah, I stay kind of busy, but I also don't like trolls. I think you guys do a lot of great work with your channels, and you're very brave speaking out about these awful forms of corruption that are going on. And so yeah, I have a tendency to just kind of knock trolls out of the chat as soon as they start. So
Awesome. I love it. I love the mods, the lady mods and
Yeah.
and this whole thing. You rule. Thank you, Jessica, for
and I
calling.
love your mods.
Yes.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. You have quite the crew. Stephanie and Em and Jen and Sarah and Shop and Laura. I'm not very good at the accent, but I try.
Yeah, they're awesome. I got another question, I think, for you.
Yes.
What do you think? What do you think the defense should do maybe differently or do more of, or anything that you want to see from the defense this second time?
Well, I personally I actually was in Afghanistan when ARCA's technology came into play. I won't make a very long story, but basically I was in the Army's bomb squad unit, and when I got to Afghanistan, there were three Air Force EOD techs that got locked in their MRAPs prior to ARCA technology being put in it, because they burned alive essentially.
Oh.
And so so we landed literally half the first week I was there. And so basically I think that they need to give more visuals to make people understand, because I feel like a lot of the testimony, I have ADHD. And so I would just get lost in some of the very, very fine details of things. And I feel like a lot of people, everybody learns differently, but I feel like a lot of people, if they can see it visually, they'll remember that in their brains. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And then it starts firing off synapse and they hear more in the testimony too. So it's like, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree. So many people are visual learners now, especially with video and the TV that we grew up with, and MTV. And what do you mind?
Yeah.
You're not, I'm guessing you're not like World War II generation, maybe a baby boomer, but I'm guessing you're a Gen X. What generation are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
I just turned 38.
So
December,
you're even younger.
so-
I was going to say, or younger. What is that, like a millennial? Is that a millennial? I don't even know.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you're still young. 38 is still pretty young, I'd say. Awesome.
I live like some people's lives, so yeah. But I really appreciate you, Mike, and I love your polls and every you wear them. It makes my heart so happy. I may be coming up this weekend to be able to stand out and then meal of food. It just depends on. I'm doing some veteran outreach right now, so it just depends if I can get all that buttoned up. But if I do, I'd love to meet you and everybody else there. And you guys are warriors. And like I said, I've dealt with corruption myself, and I sure as heck wish that I had quite the warriors that everybody else is there. And fuck the trolls. They don't have anything better to do with their time than chat GPT all their BS answers. Sorry, I cussed on your channel. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. It's
anyway,
funny.
but-
They do.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like if someone new comes over to the troll side, all of a sudden they got the same Kevin artwork, the same chat GPT
Oh my
artwork as
gosh.
Kevin. You notice that? They must.
my gosh,
They
yeah,
must
well,
all
you
have a
know-
group. They must have a group plan on the chat GPT artwork.
I think that they have Sunday. I think that they have like Sunday meetings or
Yeah,
something, like
seriously.
a Zoom call or something. Like how do we look at stupid, as uneducated as possible, and what do we say? And it's just very like grow the fuck up, like grow the f up. So yeah, but I a lot of times I just ignore it or whatever. I don't do the drama stuff.
Oh,
it's
me
just like,
too.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. 99% of the time I ignore it. I wish more people would ignore it, but it's just so funny how they're talking about Aiden again. They're all going crazy on Aiden, and it's like they don't want to talk
it's
about
a
Michael
cycle.
Proctor. Yeah,
It's a cycle.
Yeah,
It's a cycle, and it's just like I will say one thing. I cannot obviously Chicago's got, like I said, it's got, and I won't keep mentioning it, but it's got its own issues. But the fact that people the fake victim and all those people aren't in jail right now is just amazing to me. absolutely stunningly amazing to me. Like, oh, it drives me crazy. Drives me crazy.
I appreciate your call. It was a great call, Jessica. I hope you call again.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah,
calling
thank
today.
you so much for taking my call, Mike. And like I said, I look forward to meeting everybody. If I can, like I said, if I can get all this Southern family sorted out and all this other jazz, I will be more than willing to be up there and give everybody a hug and get to know everybody. So thank you so much for taking the time and taking my call. I appreciate it.
You too. And did you say Mizzy is having a show? Is it tonight or tomorrow night? When's her first show?
Yep. Tonight at 7. Yep.
Awesome. I'll be checking that out. I love Mizzy.
Yeah. I know she's fabulous. And, you know, I know the fallouts from the military. So yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so
anyway,
much for
well,
calling.
thank you so much for taking my call. All right. Have a great night.
You
Thanks.
too. Free Karen Reed. Thank you so much, Jessica. Great call. She was fun. Funny how you kind of know people from social media, and then you hear the voice, and you're like, "Hi, you're live on the show. Who's calling?"
It's Kristen
Kristen
from Manhattan.
From where? Manhattan?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're from Betterow Town.
Yeah, I wish I was able to actually run into him, but unfortunately I haven't. Love to see him in the courtroom though.
Maybe you never know. You never know. If you hit the right deli, I bet, or the right restaurant. I know he likes restaurants.
Yeah, they must have a nice wine list and great cuts of beef.
Exactly. He definitely likes the filet, and he likes his wine. I think he likes a little scotch too. But tell us what you think about this whole thing with Michael Proctor. You think the Massachusetts State Police will actually fire him?
Yes, they will. Maybe not in this hearing today because that could potentially have an impact on the trial, but he will get fired. And coming from my father is a labor attorney, so I am fairly convinced that he will. And so, but they will bring him up. He will come and he will get questioned by Hank Brennan. Hank Brennan has to bring him up on the stand. So.
Are you surprised that they're even going to retry this?
No, I'm not.
Why?
I'm not.
Why not?
They have said from the onset that they will continue to try this case until they get a conviction. So they have committed to that, and they will continue to pursue that.
Well, why do you think that is?
Political. It's all political. Political, and then also with John O'Keefe being a police officer, but mainly political. They can't turn their backs now. They have only one path to go, and that path will continue. And the investment in bringing in Hank Brennan is evidence of that. So they are willing to spend all the taxpayer money to continue to prosecute this until they are no longer able to.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Great call, Kristen. Is this your first time calling here from Manhattan?
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, I was so happily surprised that as I was calling in, I thought that I would, you know, it would never happen. And I'm just so grateful that I'm able to actually get to speak to somebody else on this case. And this is one of the reasons why I love your channel, is that you bring in callers from, you know, other parts of Massachusetts or even, outside of that. And you get to hear, you know, other folks' opinion.
Absolutely. It's good for me too
So-
to hear where people are watching from. I love just connecting with people. It's like a good feeling and seeing
Yeah.
who's actually watching and realizing how many women. It's like almost every
Oh.
show. It's like when I open the phones, it's like 8, 9, 10 women, and then one dude calls in. You know, so I love it. It's great for me to hear
Yeah. Well, you know, and just coming, you know, just from that angle in particular, I am extremely cross with the way they're treating this woman and the types of attacks that are happening to her. It's absolutely disgusting. I have a friend who knows her personally and worked with her at Fidelity for a while. And she is an outstanding, smart, beautiful, intelligent woman. And I am disgusted with how they're treating her, how they're proceeding with this case and letting politics come into the middle of it. And just even the first case that they ran, it was awful. It was absolutely, there's so much reasonable doubt that I really struggle with where the jurors landed.
I know.
There's so many seeds of it. And it, you know, I come down to me, this is a very simple case. It is, did Karen hit John with her SUV or not? And ARCA completely obliterated that out of the water. Like, there's no question. So to me, it's a simple hit and run case. Like, did that happen? And that's a no. So then the question is, then what did happen? And that's the challenge that comes into this case is there's so many nuances and, you know, because of how the case was investigated, doesn't necessarily lead you to that answer. And so from a juror point of view, I can only assume how confusing it may be. What I hope that Karen, because I heard that you asked this to one of the other callers, is what do you want to see different? You really have to lead the jurors to understand, what does reasonable doubt mean? And let's make this from conceptual to like actual tangible. So like a perfect example is the ARCA. If the prosecution cannot completely, you know, discount that and demonstrate that that is not a viable or a reasonable possibility, that's reasonable doubt. And she's not guilty. And bringing that to life around what is reasonable doubt and what are examples and how the defense has demonstrated that, I feel like there needs to be a little bit of tangibility there because there's too much, way too much reasonable doubt for them to even think about, you know, the 6 to 6 and 8 to 4, the 9 to, there's too much for that.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that, you know, they can build a really good story around, you know, what does this actually mean? Because it's a conceptual term, and to make it real is important because it's there. It's absolutely there. They just have to paint that picture.
Do you think that they should call more witnesses for the defense this time?
Yeah. So in Aiden's interview with one of the jurors, they talked about, and I apologize, the car, the technology was in the car, and like the keys, I want to say keystrokes, but I'm sure I'm not saying that right. There was an individual by the last name of, it was like Van E, who's based in, I believe, Minnesota, that was on their witness list that they did not call. They need to dive into the technology within Karen's Lexus and, you know, give more detail around it. Also, this 227, I mean, I'm on the fence because, frankly, you know, to me, that's kind of a cherry on top. And, you know, with the prosecution coming in and saying that data isn't a reality, I struggle with that. But at the end of the day, this is all Apple data. The interpretation of that data and how that's done by someone like an Ian Whiffen or a Jessica Hyde, to me, it's much more fundamental. Like, is there an Apple
Expert.
data engineer?
Yeah, from Apple
Expert.
directly. Yeah.
Apple owns the data.
I know.
It's their data. Celebrate, and this is where I really, because Ian Whiffen and I have the same job title. We do different topics, but we do the same thing. And he's not an intelligence expert. Like how they even articulate what his role is incorrect. He helps to articulate what different users of Celebrite are looking for. The level of expertise and the underlying data, he's not an expert in. That would reside within those who work at Apple.
Exactly. An engineer at
And
Apple. Absolutely.
you need to go to the source. Yep.
Yep. And it's,
So those
I mean,
would be
to me,
the ones that I would, yeah.
yeah. Didn't you think it was a joke too when he was like, well, Celebrate is incorrect. Our software isn't right. There's a mistake. So I had to create new software of my own. That to me was like crazy. I couldn't believe that even Celebrate was letting him get away with that. Like, it's like, that just seemed insane.
It's somewhat of a conflict.
Yeah. Wicked.
Yeah. It is a business conflict. And, you know, I laugh at Hank Brennan's updated motion where he talks about how it's unequivocal. I mean, basically, Ian Whiffen, who, based off of his interpretation of the data, directed Celebrite to redesign or recode what that specific data element should be used for and should not be used for. So there's nothing new that happened other than Ian Whiffen updating the Celebrite software based off of his own interpretation. So there was nothing new. Like, there's no new unequivocal, you know, there's no new finding there. It's the same finding from Ian Whiffen. He just directed his technology team to update the software based off of his interpretation. So that's why I find that motion to be completely moot. In addition to, it's the battle of the experts. So,
Which should lead to reasonable doubt. I hope
correct.
so. Yeah.
Correct. Well, you know, if, again, this goes back to, if the jury thinks that the 227, you know, search, it is reasonable that that could have happened based off of a reasonable assertion, unless the prosecution can completely discredit that 100%, he wins.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I use win in,
reasonable
you know,
doubt, not guilty.
don't mean it in that term.
Yeah.
Not guilty.
Acquittal. Thank you so much for calling tonight, Kristen. This is your first time calling us
Yeah.
from Manhattan, I believe.
Yes, it is.
I love it. I love first-time callers. Please call again. You are great. People are loving you. Are you on social media? or any of
Oh,
them?
I am.
Do you want to promote that or not? Some people like
I
to
am.
be to hide their stuff. Go ahead, if you do.
Yeah, I mean, I just I have a Twitter account, but I only use it to look up, certain things. But you can find me. It's the Career Nomad _.
Excellent.
But I don't really have any followers. I'm not a big social media person, but
Okay.
there are some cases that, like this one, where you can find some really great documents and intelligence. So I use that as a source.
Perfect. I love Twitter for that. You can find a lot of info on there. Thank you so much for calling,
Yeah.
and please
Thank
call
you
again.
so much for engaging me on so many different topics. This was a really nice conversation, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. Again, really appreciate your call, and you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, Kristen.
Take care.
We're the Young Jerks, and having a great show. Mike Crawford here. Good calls. Unfortunately, we have to watch more of this video. I have to hit the bathroom real quick. I need to take a break, check on my dog, maybe feed my dog. So I'm going to play some more video and step out for a minute, but I'll be back. And I hope you stick around in the chat. And there could even be like a break period in the video if I'm gone for too long. I'm going to check it out. Keep it on my phone so I'm not losing track while I do a couple things here. But let's play a little more video, and then we'll take some more calls. I'm not going to take any calls right now. I'm going to turn it off actually right now. Hold on one second. Let's get the banner off. All right. I love our callers. Just 2 in a row. Jessica and Kristen were phenomenal. First-time callers. I love them. They were so good.
You said you'd ask.
Was there a continued discussion that finished on this subject matter?
Yes.
On Monday, you indicated that your conduct in this case, and specifically your conduct as reflected in these messages, how did you put it? It did not affect the integrity of the investigation, of your investigation, correct? That's what you
Correct.
said to the jurors.
Correct.
You know what the definition of integrity is?
Doing the right thing when no one's looking.
It means the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's part of it as well.
Do you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
When you say they're juvenile and regrettable, it sounds like you're almost apologizing to the jury for your conduct. Is that what you're doing?
For those text,
Objection.
Sustained.
Trooper Proctor, have you ever apologized to Miss Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
As the lead investigator in this case, you were tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the investigation remained free of any conflicts of interest. That's part of your job, correct?
correct.
Throughout the pendency of this investigation, in this case, you've denied having any conflict of interest in this case. Isn't that right?
Correct.
In fact, a couple of months ago in February of 2024, you testified in a different proceeding. Is that right?
Yes.
And you testified under oath in that proceeding on February 1st that you did not know any members of the Albert family or McCabe family, correct?
Certain members of the Albert family I did not know. I know Chris and Julie and Colin. I don't know the McCabe's.
That wasn't my question. Did you testify? Let's take them one at a time. Did you testify under oath, same oath you took here today, in a former proceeding in February of 2024, that you did not know and did not have any relationship with members of the Albert and McCabe families? Did you?
I haven't had a chance to review those minutes. I've only had one opportunity to, and that was a couple months ago. So I would want to review those minutes in order to answer that accurately.
You can't remember how you testified, whether or not you knew or had relationships with the Alberts and McCabes?
Objection.
Sustained.
As you sit here right now, you need to refresh your recollection. You can't remember what you said.
Objection.
Do you remember what you said?
During that proceeding, no.
Would it refresh your recollection if you took a look at those grand jury minutes?
Yes.
What page, Mr. Jackson?
This is page 01563. If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
If you'd review that and look up when you're finished. Now, Your Honor.
Okay.
Would that refresh your recollection about a question and answer that you had, or a series of questions and answers that you had while you were testifying under oath in that other proceeding?
Yes, sir.
Objection. May we approach?
Yes.
You are unmuted.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. You were asked the question, quote, did you communicate with First Assistant DA Beeland that you did not know and had no relationship with the Albert and McCabe families? And you answered, quote, to the best of my recollection, the same conversation took place with everyone I talked to about this because it's the same answer. It's the facts that I shared with everyone. Question, meaning you told First Assistant Beeland that you didn't know, didn't have a relationships with
Objection, Your Honor.
members of the Albert and McCabe families. Answer, correct.
Yes, that's
So,
correct.
so your question is whether he said this?
Correct. Whether that's his testimony. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And that's your testimony that you, in fact, told members of the DA's office that you did not know and did not have a relationship with the Alberts or McCabe's. Is that right?
I did not know the McCabe's. I don't know most of the Alberts, and I have little to no relationship with Chris and Julie. So that's what I meant by that answer.
Well, the question wasn't, did you know most of the Alberts? The question was, did you have a relationship with, or did you know the Alberts? And your answer was no,
No, I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
or know them.
I don't know the McCabe's. I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
So
Well,
you do
Who
know
asked-
the Alberts, correct?
See, right here, such a liar, such a fraud, trying to. This is reasonable doubt. This is what's so frustrating. It's unbelievable. Yep. So Charlie, I just fed Charlie. He's good. Got his dentabone, got his dinner. I grabbed a couple fried shrimp that we have upstairs, coconut shrimp. Oh, so good. My dinner's up there. So I don't know how much longer. I got a little food in my teeth. I ate half of it upstairs on my little break here. I should read Brian's comments. Let's look. Brian has some comments. LTL or someone else? Let me look. I'll play a little more video. I'll look for them.
I know some of them, Julie and Chris.
And Colin, correct?
Correct, and Colin.
And you knew the Alberts when you gave this testimony in February of 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, they asked if there was any relationships.
And let's try this again. Meaning you told First Assistant Beeland that you didn't know, didn't have relationships with members of the Alberts and members of the Albert and McCabe families. Answer, correct.
Mhm.
Was that ambiguous in your mind?
The way I interpreted relationships was basically being like friends or, communications, frequent communications. That's how I interpreted
Well, that might have been a
relations.
good time to pipe up and say, well, I know Chris and I know Julie and I know Colin, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
That might have been a good time to answer the question, I know these three individuals from the Albert family, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
But your answer was one word, correct, right?
Yes,
You further testified that you never have gone to any supervisor at Massachusetts State Police to disclose even a potential conflict of interest in this case that you might have, correct?
correct.
And you indicated the needs never come up. Is that right?
Correct.
You also told ADA Lally that you, quote, did not have relationships or know members of the Albert or McCabe families, correct?
Correct.
And that's just not true, is it? You do know members of the Albert family. Isn't that right?
It's different from having a relationship with people.
But what about part of the question, did not have relationships or know members of the Albert or McCabe families? How about that part of the question?
Well, that's lumped in with the McCabes. I don't know the McCabe family, sir.
I see. So what you did, Trooper Proctor, is you dissected the sentence, and where relationships are concerned, you ignored that in terms of the Alberts because you don't have relationships. Where no is concerned, you link that to the McCabes because you don't know the McCabes. That's what you did?
No.
Objection.
So it's sustained. You can ask it. You can break it down, Mr. Jackson.
Not sure I can. I'll ask it a different way. How about if I just ask it this way? That was a lie, wasn't it?
No, absolutely not.
You stand by that testimony?
All right. Apparently, there's been some breaking news. That's what people were talking about when I was on my little quick dinner break with Charlie and myself. I guess Brian from LTL reported it on here in the chat, and our moderator, Sarah, has confirmed it that Josh Levy is stepping down effective January 17th. It's been confirmed on the U.S. Attorney's Office website. Wow. I don't think that's going to make much of a difference in the FBI investigation. You know, it's just like before. But if you look at this whole thing, it started under Rollins and it continued under Levy. I think it's going to continue, especially if they've been interviewing people in the last month or two. So I really don't think it will affect this at all, actually. But it's interesting. It is very interesting. I think this is probably more about the Trump situation, where Levy sees the writing on the wall, so he's going to step down. I think this is more about Trump, and I think that Trump probably will clear out the U.S. attorneys and put new people in that he wants. That seems pretty obvious.
Yes.
It doesn't always happen, but it's been more frequent over the last few turnover of administrations that they do get replaced.
At the time that you testified, that you didn't know the Alberts or any members of the Albert family?
They don't have relationships with them.
Okay. My question is, you keep going back to relationships. I'm asking you, did you testify that you didn't know them?
Objection.
I'll let him have it. Do you understand the question, Trooper?
I knew Chris, Julie, and Colin.
So if you were to say,
The big thing you have to keep in mind is Josh Levy is not handling this case in terms of, you know, the FBI. The FBI is. And there are people under Josh Levy that are handling the case. And that it's really about, you know, who takes over, you know, in terms of who takes over and if those other people stay. That's what I'd be concerned about. If the entire office cleared out, then I'd be worried. But I don't think that's the case. I think what you're going to see is just the top person gets changed over.
I don't know any members of the Albert family, that would have been a lie, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, this is the point at which I intend to turn to tab 3, and I believe we need to approach.
Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand.
See, I think it's less likely that it happens before he stepped down now. I don't think any. I think more likely what you'll see is something happen a few months later, if anything. That's the thing about the FBI and the feds. They'll take 4 or 5 years to investigate something. Sarah Birchmore, they were investigating a lot longer, and they just took action. So it could be a year from now. All right, let's speed this up. Cut to the chase. Watch a little more of this.
Julie Albert and Chris Albert in this case on February 10th, 2022.
Sergeant Buchanan and I did, yes.
And you didn't mention a thing about your relationship with Julie Albert, Chris Albert, or Colin Albert in any report that you ever drafted in this case, did you?
I did not.
Not one word, correct?
No, sir.
You interviewed Julie and Chris Albert at about 5:30 p.m. on the 10th of February, isn't that right?
Yes.
Did either of them, Julie or Chris Albert, mention that their son Colin Albert had been at 34 Fairview Road on the night in question, January 29th?
I'd have to reread the report to refresh my memory on their statements.
Well, let me ask it a different way. If I may have just a moment.
Yes.
What's going to be his assistant right now, who's temporarily going to take it. And then it's going to be up to Trump whether he goes with the assistant or he names somebody else. That's how it's going to work. And that person would have to be approved by the Congress as well. So it could be some time before there's a replacement, like a permanent replacement. But right now, the assistant's going to take over, and the assistant may be the one that's been running the case. So I don't think this is going to be a big deal in terms of Sandra Birchmore or Karen Reed. But you never know. It's all about who actually takes over the office and who stays. If everyone from the office all of a sudden left, that would be a different story. But Josh Levy, I kind of expected it. Maybe I didn't expect him to resign. I almost expected Trump just to clean house. But it's interesting. I want to know if he gave a reason why he's resigning. That would be more interesting to find out, actually. Could be a personal thing too. Maybe his wife just had twins, and he's like, I can't do this. I need to be home for my wife.
October 12th, 2022.
Who knows?
Correct?
For which,
Concerning your interview with,
Why don't you show it to him?
I may have the wrong report.
Could be he doesn't want to work for Trump. Levy seems to me, I would guess Levy is probably a Democrat. So it could be just, you know what? I don't want to be in office. I don't want to be running this office answering to Donald Trump. It could be that too. It could be a lot of reasons. What's interesting is, the Boston 25 and some of these other folks are going to try to find out. They're going to try to find out why this guy's leaving. It'll be interesting if we actually do get any type of explanation.
Do you recall Trooper Proctor ever mentioning that whether or not Julie and Chris mentioned to you that their son had been at 34 Fairview on January 29th? Do you recall that as you sit here?
to the best of my recollection, no.
It was a very short interview with Julie and Chris, was it not?
Typical length for the information they had to offer.
So you started the interview about 5:30 p.m. It must have been relatively short because you received a phone call by 6:17 from Julie Albert herself, correct?
I don't have the call detail record in front of me, but okay, yes.
Let's look at tab 6, please. It may not be in your book.
It's not, sir.
Okay, fair enough.
That's correct too. If you look at the last two U.S. attorneys in Massachusetts, they were appointed by Joe Biden. And that was Rachel Rollins and then Levy. So it's weird that he just became the permanent U.S. attorney and now he's resigning. But again, I think it might be about politics. He might have already seen the writing on the wall too. He might have been like, you know what? You don't have to have me. You don't have to ask for my resignation. I'm just going to leave on this date anyways. Who knows? Maybe he's got some kind of big job lined up. We don't know. It's going to be interesting if we ever find out why.
You indicated that you might need to look at a phone record or a phone log to determine whether or not that call was made and what time it was made, correct?
If you have that,
May I
please.
approach you on?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's a highlighted portion, Trooper Proctor. Focus your attention on that and let me know if that refreshes your recollection.
It does, sir. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
After your interview, you received a phone call from Julie Albert about 6:07.
All right, I'm going to take a break right here. Hold on one second. I want to put this up, actually, the Levy statement. If I can I? Yeah. There it is. Let's read this. If you haven't read it, I haven't read it yet. So let's read it together. United States Attorney Josh Levy announces departure. So January 17th, he's stepping down as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts. U.S. Attorney Levy tendered his resignation to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland this afternoon. So today he decided this. So it's just talking about some of the things he did. It doesn't say why. It doesn't say why he's leaving here. At the end, it says first, Assistant U.S. Attorney Mary B. Moraine, who has been with the Department of Justice for 16 years, will assume the role of acting U.S. Attorney following U.S. Attorney Levy's departure. So there you go. Someone who's been there the whole time. This person's been there the whole time that this Karen Reed investigation's going. She's going to take over for now. I think everything's going to be fine here. I really do. Just reading a couple comments here. How do you all feel? Are you nervous about it? I guess that's the question in the chat. Or do you feel like everything's going to be fine with the feds now, or are you worried about it because Levy's going to be gone? Someone said Levy is going out on a high note. You never know. You never know. Maybe January 16th is the day, right? His assistant takes over, Casey. We just read her name. She's been with the Justice Department this is her second decade. So it's someone that's been there the whole time. And I think we'll be fine. Like Stephanie says, I think we'll be fine. I think we will too. Yeah, exactly, too. This is the big thing, what Mary said. It depends if they clear house, and I don't think they will. Usually, if anything, when a Democrat comes in or a Republican comes in, they usually keep the same U.S. attorneys, but lately there has been some turnover where they clean house, and they don't clean house with the people who have been there for 18 years. They clean house with the appointed U.S. attorneys, like Levy. So, this to me, I kind of expected it, honestly. Someone says maybe he'll join Karen's defense team. Wouldn't that be wild? Holy crap. No, he's not going to do that. That would probably be some type of conflict. Yeah. All right, let's play a little more, and then I'm going to wrap this up tonight. But if you can, I pinned in the chat the Karen Reed Defense Fund. Let's try to continue to raise money for her defense. It's big. We need to, if you haven't given a donation in a while, it'd be a good time to do so.
Phone call with Julie Albert on your personal cell phone.
I did not.
Let's turn to tab 5 one more time. If you could turn to page 2677. Trooper Proctor, after your interview with Julie Albert, your sister Courtney texted you, "How did it go at Julie's? She was so nervous." You recall that?
Yes.
In fact, you responded to that with a ha, 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 ha. 4 ha's, right? And then why, question mark, correct?
Correct.
Then you responded, "It was fine, just a quick convo," correct?
Yes.
You were literally reporting back to your sister about the progress of your investigation in a homicide investigation, weren't you?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Were you reporting your progress to your sister about your investigation?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
we're just going to speed
You are
this
unmuted.
up here. 1 second. We'll go back to normal.
Ma'am, yes, thank you. Were you reporting your progress of your investigation back to your sister, Courtney Proctor?
No, absolutely not.
But you did say that the conversation, the formal interview went fine. It was just quick conduct, correct?
In response to my sister indicating Julie was nervous, that's why I told her it was fine.
Trooper Proctor, Julie, and Chris Albert were not actually treated like witnesses in a murder investigation. They were treated more like friends. Wouldn't you agree?
Objection.
Is that true?
Absolutely not.
We've established that you're very close with your sister, Courtney, correct?
Correct.
You provided your sister with updates on important advancements during the
Everyone wants to know this answer coming in now. No, I don't believe it will affect the investigation, especially if, the source I've been speaking to told me that people from the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office had been interviewed by the FBI at the end of November, beginning of December. So if that's the case, I don't think this is going to change anything. And there's no reason that Trump would want to shut this down, into a Democrat, investigation of a Democrat DA. You think Trump wants to shut that down? There's no political reason for him to want to do so. But there is a political reason why Trump probably won't want a Democrat in as the U.S. attorney. And that's probably why this is happening. But I don't think it's going to affect anything related to Sandra Birchmore, especially, or Karen Reed. I think they just continue. The same people working the case are going to be working the case. They're not leaving, just the top guy. And we don't know why he left. He hasn't told us why. It could be anything. Sometimes these guys have health scares. You never know. There could be some kind of health issue that dude's going to be on chemo. You don't know. We have no idea. So we can't speculate. And I obviously the most likely is the political reason, because Levy's a Democrat, Trump's a Republican. It's that simple. That's the most likely. But that's not going to affect anything with Karen Reed. When Rachel Rollins left, that didn't change anything. Josh Levy continued the investigation going. That's what's going to happen here.
course of your investigation into this case, did you not periodically?
I made her aware of newsworthy stuff.
That started as early as January 29th, 2022. Isn't that right?
Don't have the exact date or content.
Well, the day of the incident.
And I pretty much believe this too, that Trump's going to get rid of any Democrat that's a U.S. attorney. Doesn't matter who it is.
You began letting her know that you were involved, that you had been assigned, what the status was,
Yes.
the nature of the case. the fact
Correct.
that it was a homicide, correct?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you discussed who the players were, who the people were that were involved. Isn't that right?
I just mentioned Julie and Chris were out earlier in the evening.
So you mentioned the Alberts, correct?
Julie and Chris, yes.
You also mentioned the McCabe's too, didn't you? At some
I-
point.
Yes.
Yeah. At 2668, Your Honor, that's the page that I'm referring to. Okay. You don't need to show this at this point. You write
Yeah, that is true too.
homicide,
I think
correct?
Fannie Willis is a DA. She's not a U.S. attorney, so she's not getting replaced by Trump. But anyone that is a Democrat, I think, is going to get replaced as U.S. attorney under Trump. That's very likely. Good point. I love our fact checkers. You rule. Facts rule.
So I said 2668.
Correct. If I have my page number correct.
You're on the right page, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
You wrote the word homicide. Is that right?
Yes,
You were describing to your sister the nature of the case that you are now assigned. Is that right?
correct.
She wrote the Canton thing is a homicide. And you wrote, don't say a word to anyone, correct?
Correct.
And then she wrote, of course not. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And then you wrote what?
In the very least, it's suspicious.
In the very least, it's suspicious, correct?
Correct.
So at that time, at least at the time that you wrote that text on the 29th at 3:05 in the afternoon, you believed that the case was suspicious, right?
It was before we found significant pieces of evidence.
So you believe that it was suspicious that it may involve the Alberts, right?
Absolutely not.
Those are my friends. I can't suspect them.
She then writes, this is your livelihood, didn't she?
She did.
Meaning this kind of case could make or it could break your career, right?
Objection.
She then wrote, I would never mess with that. Is that right?
Yes.
Your sister, Trooper Proctor, was warning you that you shouldn't be investigating a case in which close friends or family members were involved.
Objection.
Did you take her text? This is your livelihood. I would never mess with that, as a warning from her that you shouldn't be investigating a case that involved close friends.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, but she was totally right. I mean, that's the funny thing. How can you say absolutely not when it all turned out to be true? Your career was on the line with this, and you chose wrong, Proctor. And I think she was saying it in the other way, that if you went up against big bad Brian Albert, your career is over. If you go against the system, Proctor is screwed either way, it turns out. You know, because if he went up against Albert, they would have effed him. I think that's what she was saying. I think that's what Jackson's implying too. And he's denying it. But it's so funny how she was correct. His career was on the line over this case. Why? Why was his career over, because of who it was. She knew. She was friends with them. Look at how he puts his head down, how he has to stop and think about what he's saying very carefully. This guy's been trained to lie.
That was in response to don't say a word to anyone.
Don't say a word.
And that was how I interpreted this is your livelihood. I would never mess with that.
Sounds like the
Supplement
mafia.
failure,
Don't say a
307,
word.
January 29th.
I'm going to tell you something. Don't say a word
Quote,
about
Julie
it.
and
Just
Chris
like the
were at the
mafia.
bar with the victim.
Just like the mafia. Right? Don't say a word. Then why is he telling her? Guy's a moron.
And girlfriend, got to interview them. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So you were telling
Yeah, he's saying,
Courtney,
get me out of
your
here.
sister,
That's what his body
updates
looks like.
on what your investigation advancements were.
Slumps
correct?
over.
Who
Just
you're
that
gonna
part.
interview, why you're going to interview him.
Yes.
She wrote, you got to be
does.
kidding me, correct?
Correct.
Did you take that as you got to be kidding me? The Alberts are involved?
No, absolutely not.
And then you wrote, it's not a big deal, correct?
Correct.
And then she wrote, I bet I know the person. Sounds like it is, meaning it is a big deal, right?
She knew
Yeah, I'm
it
not
was a big
sure
deal.
what she meant
Yeah,
with those
I bet you don't know
messages there.
those messages.
But she did
there.
write, I bet I know the person.
like that
didn't she?
guy on the lawn there.
She did write that, yes.
And you know she's very close with the Alberts, correct?
Yeah, you should have listened to
She's
his
close
sister.
with Julie and Chris.
Should have reassigned the
You
case.
then wrote, no, I meant, or you wrote not. I think you meant no.
Yeah, she lost
I
her
meant
job
that they were
too,
at the bar
didn't she?
with him, correct?
Yes.
She writes, yeah, I got that part.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
she continues on,
Not.
but I
That's-
know a
that's
lot of
like
their
that's
friends.
yeah,
correct?
that is so funny when he says absolutely not. That's when you know he's lying. It's so true. He would just say, why can't he just say no? Why does he have to say absolutely not? That's always a sign. Can I be truthful? I'll be truthful with this one. That's always a sign they lie a lot. It's so obvious he's lying. Why couldn't a jury figure that out?
Yes.
Did you see a problem in this exchange?
Nothing jumped out at me.
Your sister's literally explaining that your family friends are suspects or possible suspects in a murder investigation that you're in charge of,
Bingo.
correct?
This is such a good moment. Good point too. You think Whitey Bulger would have done text? No. Whitey used to go out to Castle Island because he didn't want to get bugged to do his business. You think he'd put something in writing? I mean, how dumb. Like you would at least think they would just do this by phone call. I want to tell you something. Give me a call. Maybe that text instead, you know? It would still be suspicious, but it wouldn't be in writing like this. How dumb.
On January 30th, 2022 at 9:13 in the morning, your sister texted you again, quote, Jesus Christ. The party was at one of the Alberts, correct?
Yes.
And you two were discussing the fact that, to put it in her words, Jesus Christ, these are our friends, right?
Our friends, huh?
How did you take her Jesus Christ? The party was at one of the Alberts with 2 exclamation points.
Exactly.
How did you take that?
That's
Look, he's trying to think about it. He's reading it. This is crazy. Now, it seems like he's very close. He's so close to his sister, he tells her everything. And she calls them our friends. That right there is reasonable doubt. That's another. This should have got thrown out so quickly. Yeah, our friends, not just hers, our friends. The whole family. It's a second family, right? Isn't that what Proctor's mother said? Right? This is unbelievable. Watching again, it's just so wild. Because you do forget. You forget how wild this really was when it happened. And the fact that a jury did not find Karen Reed not guilty after this. That is wild.
the way I'm interpreting my sister's text messages was that surprised and shocked that this is where Mr. O'Keefe was found on the front lawn of that residence.
Of that resident.
Jesus Christ.
Your friend's
we
resident.
know these people.
No, that residence. See how careful he was? He thought about it. That residence. Just like that man was found. Telling the man didn't come into the house. I mean, it's cold.
Again, that's how I read that message.
That's how I read it.
You don't deny, Trooper Proctor, that you were routinely disclosing to your sister pretty intimate details about the investigation, correct?
I wouldn't say intimate. I'd say newsworthy stuff or just generic, nothing too specific.
Newsworthy, would you have gone to the news at this point in the investigation? Would you have gone to the news and
It's
said,
just a man passed out in the snow.
Julie and Chris were at the bar. I got to go interview him.
Objection.
Allow that. Is that what you do, Trooper?
I want to listen to it back, but I seem to recall Jennifer McCabe knew exactly how old John was on that phone call, but she did. She seemed to have forgotten that he was a friend and a Boston police officer, right?
I would not do that, sir.
So it was not newsworthy. These were details, internal details about the investigation, weren't they?
Yes,
And you were sharing them with your sister, Courtney Proctor, correct?
correct.
And Courtney Proctor's best friend is Jillian Daniels, and one of her closest friends is Julie Albert, right?
Correct.
Then on February 1st, 2022, your sister texts you that she's actually meeting with Julie Albert, didn't she?
Yes,
And that was before you ever interviewed Julie, correct?
yes,
So it appears that Courtney was providing information to Julie of some sort before you were able to actually interview her. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained.
She was, well, let me ask it this way. You don't deny that Courtney was meeting with Julie before you interviewed her, correct?
correct.
And you don't deny that you had been providing information about the case with Courtney before you interviewed Julie, correct?
Provided information that Julie and Chris were at the waterfall and I needed to interview them. Yes, that's the information I shared.
And who knows what you shared verbally, not in text messages, correct?
Objection.
Did you, we have text messages, Trooper Proctor. Did you share other information on phone calls with Courtney?
No,
So the only information we're to believe, you talk to her 5 to 6 times a day. The only information that you claim you shared with Courtney about the details of the investigation are contained in these texts, which we have.
Objection.
I'll let you answer that. Can you answer that?
I mean, that to me is a little strange that he talks to his sister that much. I don't talk to my sisters, my family members 5 or 6 times a day by text. But the fact that he did indicates how close he was to her, and also shows you that, you know, that I don't know those people. My sister's friend, he knew those people.
The information that I share with my sister contained within these texts, yes.
You never discussed this case verbally, over the phone or in person with Courtney.
On the phone, I'm sure there's been conversations that things that have, you know, been newsworthy items that have gone to the news. There's definitely been conversations in that regard.
Then before you ever interviewed Julie, your sister informed you that Julie actually wanted to get you a gift for your participation on this case, correct?
Yes.
In tab 5, let's turn to page 2672, Trooper Proctor. With court's permission, may we publish?
Yes.
That page 2672. You see the text from you, what's up?
Yes.
And what's Courtney Proctor's response?
Nothing. I just saw Julie, and she said, when this is all over, she wants to get you a thank you gift. And I respond with, get Elizabeth one.
Hang on just a second. Let's take them one at a time. You were asked about this on direct examination by Mr. Lally, right?
Correct.
And you looked at the jurors, paused, and said, I never asked for a gift. I never received a gift. Elizabeth never asked for a gift. She never received a gift. You remember that?
Correct.
You said you never asked for a gift, correct?
Correct.
What's your next text?
Get Elizabeth one.
Get Elizabeth one what?
Referring to a gift.
Right. So you did, in fact, ask for a gift.
He did, in fact,
For
ask
my
for a
wife,
gift.
who had been home with my children for the last 10 nights.
What a
From
clown!
Julie
I
Albert.
know.
Yes.
For your participation on this case.
I don't know if that's, yes.
Well, Courtney Proctor answers that question by saying, because I guess her and Chris were friends and John, and she's so proud of you for leading this investigation, correct?
Correct.
You're aware during the course of your investigation, well, let me ask it this way. Let me ask a foundational question. Do you pull phone records as a matter of course in investigations of this nature?
Yes.
Did you pull phone records in this case variously?
The phone records of,
Of anybody? Witnesses, suspects,
not witnesses, Mr.
individual people, whatever?
We didn't pull full phone records of witnesses.
Victim?
Victim and Miss Reed.
During the course of your investigation, did you become aware that there were 67 calls between Julie Albert and your sister, Courtney, in the months following John O'Keefe's death?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Did you become aware during the course of your investigation of the level of communication between Julie Albert, one of the witnesses on the case, and your sister?
Objection.
I'm sustaining that objection. You can come try and convince me otherwise if you want, Mr. Jackson.
I can ask it a different way, Your Honor. Thank you. Did you ever seek information about phone calls and communications that Julie Albert may or may not have been having with anybody else?
No.
Didn't download her phone, didn't seek her phone records.
No.
Did Courtney ever tell you that she had consistent communications with Julie Albert? Or did you know that otherwise?
Objection.
I'm hearing all kinds of stuff in the chat right now. This is funny if this is true. Colonel Jessup says, I was just about to post something about his buddy Nicky Farello got arrested. I hope so. He's a scammer. Does anyone know any more information? Did Nicky Fiorello get arrested? I would love to read up on that. If anyone's got any info on that, please pass it along. Nicky, George Soros got him. If you don't know about Nicky, thank God. It's good not to know about Nicky Fiorello.
During the months, let me ask it this way. During the months following John O'Keefe's death, you did continue to have consistent communications with Courtney, though, didn't you?
Yes, I speak to my sister every day.
Trooper Proctor, were you using Courtney, your sister, as an intermediary between you and Julie Albert?
Absolutely not.
You were well aware from the very beginning of your investigation that Colin Albert was, in fact, at 34 Fairview on the night in question, right?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you testified at the grand jury, the state court grand jury on this case, that you knew that Colin Albert was at the location, right?
Yes.
Did you make any concerted efforts to keep Colin Albert's name out of this investigation?
No.
Why is it, Trooper Proctor, that Colin Albert's name fails to appear in a single police report until July 18, 2023?
Colin Albert was not at the home. He left at approximately 12:10 a.m. before anyone from the waterfall had arrived back there.
Let's look at, obviously, part of the job of an investigator is to be as complete and thorough as possible, correct?
Yes.
You don't just take someone's word for something. You look for corroborating evidence, don't you?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you wouldn't take a witness's word for almost anything in a reasonable investigation, would you?
Objection.
Would you?
If-
You can have that.
If I find the witness to be credible and have no reason to lie, then yes, I would take their word.
Would you try to support a witness's statement or witnesses with an apostrophe, S apostrophe, their statements with corroborating evidence?
Yeah, potentially.
That corroborating evidence might be talking to other witnesses, right?
Yes.
It might be looking at cell phone data, correct?
Correct.
It might be looking at geolocation data, correct?
Yes.
You're trying to find out where someone is. You might pull information from their phone concerning geolocation data, right?
Yes.
You might pull cell tower information, right?
If there's a need for it.
There's myriad ways that you can find out whether someone's telling the truth about where they were and when they were there, right?
Right.
Let's take a look at
Yeah, we were talking about Nick Fiorello. He's a what looks like a real estate scammer who tried to jump into the Karen Reed case and hijack it with a bunch of BS that he's been involved in. And it's not Nick Rocco. We're talking about a different Nick Fiorello. Nick Rocco is awesome and raises money. Nick Fiorello scams people out of their real estate rentals. Big difference. One person's great, one person is not so great. Allegedly, according to his victims. And he has been investigated, and he's got all kinds of stuff against him. Talking about Nick Fiorello.
your handwritten notes from your interview with Juliana Nagel on October 5th, 2022. This should be tab 7. Oh,
What is it for identification?
my mistake. I thought it was in the tab. It's not. This is a 3-page document. I'll just refresh his recollection with this.
Okay, show Mr. Lally and then.
Yep, Turtle Boy did write
Let
about
me ask
Nicky
the foundational
Fiorello.
question, Trooper Proctor. Do you remember exactly what's in your notes from a conversation that you had on October 5th, 2022?
I don't know.
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to take a look at your handwritten notes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Take a look at that. And first, let me just ask you if that refreshes your recollection.
It does, sir.
Are those your notes, your handwritten notes from this, at least from partially from this investigation?
Yes.
Does that reflect your handwritten notes based on a conversation that you had with Juliana Nagel on or about October 5th, 2022?
Take your time, Michael. Take your time, Mr. Proctor. suspended without pay under an internal affairs investigation. Take your time, Michael. Most likely under federal investigation. Take your time, Mike. Right? Totally see him trying to figure it out. What am I going to say? How am I going to say it?
Mayor, Your Honor,
Yes.
is this going to be an accurate representation or an accurate copy of your notes from your interview with Juliana Nagel?
That's a good question. If we'll be able to watch the hearing, I'm guessing not. We should be able to. It would be in the public interest, but I'm pretty sure they won't let us watch that hearing. But you never know. Maybe we'll do some FOIA requests and get it.
I changed my mind. I would like to have this marked as next.
Introduced into evidence?
Correct.
Is there an objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the objection sustained.
Is it true that in your handwritten notes, you list the following individuals based on Juliana Nagel's conversation with you as being at 34 Fairview? Brian, Juliana, Mary Kent, Emily.
Isn't it funny? Because it does seem like Proctor had a script for some of his answers. He was like ready to go. And then other ones, he's like taking his time, trying to figure out what he's going to say. It's so true. So obvious, too.
Fabiano, Courtney Alba, Colin Albert, and Sarah Levinson. Correct?
Correct.
You then drafted a report memorializing your conversation with Juliana Nagel, correct?
Yes.
And that report is a formal memorialization of your interview based on your investigation, correct?
Yes. A summary of the conversation for the interview.
And that report is the thing that's turned over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Yes.
And the report is the thing that's entered into discovery and provided to the defense.
Correct.
And isn't it true that in that report, you list the individuals that were at 34 Fairview as Brian, Mary Kent, Emily Fabiano, Sarah Levinson. Is that correct?
Yes.
What's the one name that was left out of your report on that list?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Colin Albert.
Was there one name left out?
The,
Break that down, Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Isn't it true that in your report, you excluded the one name, Colin Albert, from the list of individuals that were in your notes?
yes, because he arrived later in the evening. The other females were there from the start.
At the time that you wrote your report, the formal report, this one,
Mhm.
you did not believe that your handwritten notes were also going to be disclosed, did you?
No, I knew that was a possibility.
When you finally did get around to interviewing Colin Albert, you personally conducted that interview, did you not?
Yes.
Colin
Along
Albert
with Trooper
told you
Zach
that
Clark.
One at a time.
I'm sorry.
Finish your answer, Trooper.
Please go ahead.
Yes, along with Trooper Zach Clark in my office.
Colin Albert told you that he was picked up by Allie McCabe from his uncle's house at 12:10 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Allie McCabe also told you that she picked up Colin Albert at 34 Fairview at 12:10 a.m. and then dropped him off at his house, correct?
Correct.
And then she indicated that she went straight home after that, right?
Yes.
Did you conduct any further investigation to determine whether Colin Albert and Allie McCabe were actually telling the truth about that time?
We did not.
You just took them at their word, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, you realize that you had a forensic image at the time. You had a forensic
This is a
image.
great question. Lisa Boston. I think there's a lot the defense is going to do better the second time, and this might be one of them. They should be asking him, like, why did you disclose this to your superiors over and over again? I mean, right? Boston Lisa says, why doesn't the defense ask him why you didn't say you knew the Alberts? I want to know this answer. Right? They got to ask that over and over again and go through it. Like, what are the conflict of interest for investigations? Like, go through the rules, because I guarantee there's some kind of guidelines for it. You know? It's like journalism. If I'm going to write a story about my family, I have to disclose it's my family, right? I mean, you can't pretend you're unbiased when you have a bias. Great question.
Image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone in your possession, right?
Correct.
You're also aware that she has a Life 360 app on her phone that tracks the location of Allie McCabe, correct?
I was not aware the app tracked her daughter. I knew of the Life 360 app, but I wasn't aware of the capability.
I am aware that they watch sometimes, because when I met them, they knew all about the show, especially when Bettero's on. They love attorney Mark Bettero. This comment said, right, Mike, hope the defense team follows you. They may get some tips. I think they get a lot of tips from all the different shows, especially when you have people like attorney Bettero and some of the other attorneys. There's this other brother counsel now. He's amazing. He's got trolls now. He's being called the grifter. Welcome to the club. He does a great job too. I'm sure they're getting tips from all the Melanie Little. I'm sure they were watching her today. Because that, even for me, like as someone that does a show, I get a lot of tips from Melanie just watching her info. So yeah, I think that the defense is watching us all, and they're watching social media, they're watching Twitter, they're watching Olivia Lambeau. You know how much stuff comes from Olivia Lambeau? I bet that is from the defense now. So absolutely, they are listening and watching everybody.
Ability of tracking her daughter.
Did you bother to look at Jennifer McCabe's
Yeah,
Life
Nurse Kim.
360 app to determine
Absolutely.
whether Colin Albert and Allie McCabe were telling the truth about the time that they supposedly left 34 Fairview?
Objection.
Did you do that online?
I did not.
Yeah, microdots.
We'll
They
take a look
hired
at-
him actually.
Tab 8. Do you recall looking at all at a Life 360 app or its data from Celebrate Report?
Objection.
Yeah, you're right. They
Did you or
did
did you
ask him.
not look at
I just
any
think
data?
I feel like they need to ask it over and over again and drill down on it and be like, what are the standards of procedure when you know somebody? What type of relationships would exclude? You know, if your father was a suspect, would you investigate that murder? You know what I mean? Like, just ask all kinds of questions about it. So because a jury, just like when we did, radio or streaming radio or a show like this, repetition. If you repeat something, a lot of times people don't hear it the first time. They don't hear it the second time. They don't hear it the third time. But the fourth or fifth time, people start getting it. And then the sixth time, the seventh time. That's why commercials, they don't just throw a commercial on once and hope you buy their product. They want you to, they know, like scientific studies have shown, that you're more likely to purchase a product if you've heard the commercial like 10 times or more. If you just heard it once, you're probably not going to follow up on it. It's like the 10th, 11th, 12th time. It's that repetition. It's just like the hit songs that we hear on the radio. People say they hate them, but if it's not a song they recognize, they usually change the channel. So repetition. I just hope that the defense really drills down on this next time, because they did. Alan Jackson did a good job on it. But I think to point it right back at him about this, what is the standard of procedure when you know somebody and you're investigating them?
Yeah, from Life 360, from Jennifer McCabe's phone.
Objection.
All right, so this is a good time to take morning recess, and I'll see you.
All right. I think what I'm going to do here is take a
15,
break,
20 minutes.
actually, in terms of shut down the show. Bev's taking her break. I think it's time for us to close it down tonight. I've been going for a lot of hours, longer than I thought, but it was fun. 2 hours and 41 minutes. Wow. I'm going to go eat the rest of my dinner and probably watch Busy and maybe check out to see what Sean's up to tonight. I want to thank everyone who's been watching, super chatting, supporting tonight. And again, we have more video. We can play the rest of the Proctor video on another day. That's what's so great about this. We have it in the bag for later. We will get to it. I intend to focus a lot on this Proctor video over and over again. Because like we said tonight, and so many of you repeated as well, his whole testimony brings up reasonable doubt. Everything he says. And you could just focus on like 1 5-minute segment and it does it. And then it changes to something else. And it just, there's so much to the Proctor testimony. And I don't know how they're going to put him on the stand again and think they got a conviction against Karen Reed. So I think everyone, free Karen Reed, keep your head up. Don't listen to those trolls. Those trolls, they are desperate. They are putting up a good front, but they are desperate and they know it. That's why they're attacking Aiden again. That's why they're bringing up all this other stuff, the KP video against Nick Rocco and his wife, Jenna Rocco. That's why they're bringing this up, because they know they're done. They're cooked. The second time through, they're not going to get a conviction. Odds are very much against them, and this is the reason why. How do they get through this? How do they get Proctor on the stand and it not be worse the second time? The second time, it's going to be worse for him. It was that messy the first time. Can you imagine with all the time, the same lawyers, the same info, but now they have even more info. They got more familiarity with it. And now they have Alessi too, who's pro bono, not restricted by cost as much. It is his time, but the guy is committed. He's an all-star. So this is going to be something amazing to see in April. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Commonwealth get spanked on this. I really am. So if you can donate to the Turtle Boy Defense Fund, the Karen Reed Defense Fund. Karen Reed Defense Fund is linked at the top of the chat. Looking forward to tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Karen Reed is going to be back in court. I will be streaming at 9 a.m. There's also Robert Devine has a hearing tomorrow at 9:30. Hopefully we can try to record that as well. And tomorrow night, Tuesday night, is the Canton Board of Selectmen, or Select Board. We're going to be broadcasting that live as well, the Zoom. Later on this week, I'm going to try to get Better on. I'm not sure of the night. It could be Thursday. It just really depends on whether he has to travel to Boston for Aiden's next hearing, which I believe is on Friday. Apparently, he also has a hearing tomorrow as well. So there's a lot happening this week and the upcoming weeks. Tomorrow is Dr. Russell. All eyes going to be on Dr. Russell and Hank Brennan. I think this is a joke that they're putting her through this. So I'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll be watching. And I'll see you in some of the chats. Hopefully we check some of you out watching the Mizzy show tonight. I'm going to go get some food. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And like I said, keep your head up. Don't let them distract us. Look at what they have to put on the stand. A guy who's disgraced under internal affairs investigation. He's got this trial coming up, basically. It's not good for them. That's what they have. Their lead investigator. Reasonable doubt all over. Every time he speaks, it's reasonable doubt. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.